Today on Beyond the Image, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Dr. David Steinberg, founding partner of Steinberg Diagnostic Medical Imaging. Thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure.
So I'd like to start if you can just give me a little bit of an introduction and the story of SDMI, how it came to be.
Oh, it's a long time ago now, but it started in about 1985 when I was a fellow in Washington, D.C., and my dad, who's a radiologist here, talked about the possibility of opening up some outpatient offices. And in 1985, outpatient radiology was pretty new, and most of the radiology was done in the hospital. But there was this new concept brewing, and there were very few places in the United States that even did it, called outpatient imaging centers. We found a site right next to Sunrise Hospital on Maryland Parkway, and we bought the site. It was actually, funny story, was the site of my pediatrician when I was a kid. And so the same place I gave patients injections is the same place I got injections as a kid from my pediatrician. So we bought the site in Maryland Parkway. I made plans to move back here in 1988, and we started the project in 1985. It took a couple years to build. At that point, GE actually had a building division, and we used GE Medfax to build our first imaging center. And in February 29th, 1988, only a couple months after we moved back here, we opened up the first SDMI.
That's amazing. How did your father's vision, or how has your father's vision shaped your approach to business?
My dad was a very dogmatic guy. He believed that radiology and doctors should run medicine, and believed that if you always put the patient first, that it would serve you in the end. My dad really wanted to shape the way radiology was delivered and made it very, very patient-centric, and I saw that from a very early age.
What was the landscape of radiology when you first started?
When I moved here? Wow. I think I might have been one of the very first fellowship-trained radiologists. So at that point, prior to me coming to Las Vegas, most radiologists spent 3 years doing radiology. I spent 4 years and then an additional fellowship. Outpatient radiology was brand new. I mean, for the most part, we did a lot of X-ray and a lot of fluoroscopy. MRI was really just brand new. Multi-slice CT, brand new. PET didn't exist. It was very, very different than what we did here. A lot of the procedures that I did when I moved here in 1988, we no longer do. So radiology was very different. And the idea of a university-trained radiologist and fellowship-trained radiologist, which is so common today, was really very, very uncommon back in 1988.
What do you think has changed the most over the years?
Probably, the way computers have affected radiology. When I started here, we hung film. We dictated into a cassette tape. We, had transcriptionists. We scheduled on a big, huge piece of paper about, 3 feet by 2 feet in a little tiny office. And also, we had some computers, but we were an experiment for medical manager back then to even have a computer in an office. So computers and data and electronics have really changed radiology tremendously.
What are the biggest challenges in healthcare today?
Boy, there's just so many. I mean, post-COVID, we're still dealing with the fallout of really, the change in landscape of the way people want to work and will work. And productivity is down tremendously. Also, healthcare in general, for so many years, used to be such a desired profession. And somehow, during COVID, we lost that honorary excitement about being a doctor or a radiologist or technologist. So our problem now is staffing. We don't have enough radiologists. We're constantly looking for more radiologists. We don't have enough technologists. The other thing is there's things that we didn't know existed before. We didn't, quiet quitting, ghosting and no showing up. Everything's changed post-COVID, and people realize, maybe in some ways good that we don't have as much control over our lives as we thought we did, and really COVID kind of showed us that, there's things that are much greater than our ability to deal with. On the other hand, we have a lot of people that have delayed care post-COVID, and we're seeing sicker people. We're seeing women who have delayed getting their mammograms. We've seen cancer patients getting delayed follow-up. And so the complexity of the studies that we're looking at now are significantly worse than what we saw pre-COVID.
SDMI is known for having some of the best technology, the best equipment in the country, in the state, in the city for sure. How do you make sure that this organization stays ahead of the curve?
My dad used to say it in a different way. He used to say it, if you don't have the best, you have nothing. And I agree with that. I love sophisticated equipment, but I really have to hand it to my partner. Mark and I did our residency, Dr. Winkler, in San Francisco, and Mark is a connoisseur of fine equipment. He is very, very technical, very, very sophisticated, and he's really the person and the individual, in the last 25 years, that really has been responsible for keeping SDMI really on the forefront of technology, best nuclear medicine. So I really can't take credit. I think it's really Dr. Winkler. We did our residency together. We've been, best friends, for over 35 years. My longest relationship, even longer than my wife, because Mark and I met in our residency before I met my wife. We're great friends. We challenge each other. We want the best for our patients. We want the best for our staff. And we want the best for our families who get cared for as well at SDMI.
There's a whole part of technology that is outside of the actual equipment in the facilities. How do you make sure that SDMI as a whole runs efficiently and is on top of the changes in technology?
So we're very, very lucky. In most organizations, if you have a chief information officer, that's pretty impressive. We not only have a chief information officer, but we have a chief healthcare information officer. Both of them really are just top-notch, unbelievable. And again, it's really under their tutelage and under their supervision that SDMI has really been so sophisticated with patient outreach, with our PACS program, with our doctor portal, and now even coming artificial intelligence, which is obviously the hot topic of the day. But we carefully evaluate technology. We want to make sure it's cost effective. We want to make sure it's patient centric and tech centric. So it's easy to use and easy to use for the patients, easy to use for the techs, and safe for our patients.
What do you think SDMI's biggest impact on the local community has been?
You know what? I think the fact that we're locally owned, locally managed, and that any monies that we make are really spent locally. I wasn't born here, but I moved here when I was 2. I went to high school here, so I have a strong affinity for the Clark County School District. We support a variety of different local charities. But medicine in the end is really a very local phenomena. The way you practice radiology, the way you practice medicine in Las Vegas and Southern Nevada doesn't look like the way you practice this in other localities. And so, we're longtime members of this community, and we're very proud of what Las Vegas has become and what SDMI has become. And we're constantly looking to partner with our community partners to try to make our community better.
What has been the most rewarding part of your SDMI journey?
Oh, wow. You know what? There's so many. I'm very proud of the way we treat our employees. I think we've been always advanced as trying to treat everyone equally. We were one of the first companies in Southern Nevada to insure domestic partners. We were one of the first companies to make sure the whole family was insured. I think, depending, even when we built our offices, we wanted to make sure that our offices in underserved areas had equal equipment to our areas, our offices in more affluent neighborhoods. So, when we put in 3D mammography, we didn't put 3D mammography in just our office that was, in a rich suburb. We put 3D mammography in our inner city offices and our North Las Vegas offices because we felt that it was important to have equal care and equal medicine for all our patients.
How would you describe your leadership style?
You know what? I always believe that you should treat others how you'd like to be treated. And I'm not a terribly formal person. I'm very much dedicated to our employee safety, patient safety, and basically everyone's individual rights. So I want my rights to be respected, and my rights are not any more important than anyone else's, whether it's our employees or our patients. So, I think we need to be respectful of one another, and hopefully, I treat my patients with respect, and I treat my employees with respect, and in that same regard, I get treated the same way.
When SDMI first started, you were a working radiologist every day, being a doctor, and now you're much more on the business side of things. What has been the biggest challenge making that transition?
Well, I can tell you with the shortage of radiologists, I'm back to reading cases, which I'm really enjoying, although I'm not quite the same machine or producer that I used to be, in my 30s. But you know what? I was trained as a radiologist. I did a fellowship in interventional radiology. I'm boarded in neuro and interventional radiology as well as diagnostic radiology. I never took a business class. I never took an accounting class. So I am very lucky. My dad was very business centric, and I've had great tutors along the way, whether they were accountants or lawyers or even personal coaches. But really, I'm self-taught.
You've mentioned there's a national shortage of radiologists. There's not as many people going into healthcare. What advice or encouraging words can you give to somebody that is considering healthcare or is in medical school and is trying to decide if radiology is right for them?
Well, first of all, if you're in medical school and you want to be a radiologist, call me. We'll hire you at some point, as long as you've done well and you're interested in outpatient care but I mean the reality is that our nation is aging. There's a huge need for healthcare. Our healthcare system, unfortunately, is not well thought out and very inefficient. And at the end of the day, though, we still have to figure out how to take care of the people in America. And you know what? I can tell you, helping people and especially ministering to people who are worried about their health or ill. You know what? It's unbelievably rewarding. I mean, I remember, one of my friends once who was, investment banker told me, he felt terrible about what he did, but he made a lot of money. And I said, well, I don't really make a lot of money. I was an intern at that point, but I feel great about what I do because I help people every day. And he was, complaining, and he was making a fortune. And I was pretty happy knowing that every day I had, impact on people's lives, and we're helping them live, better lives, and hopefully helping them get better.
One of the hot topics today is mental health and work-life balance. How do you take care of yourself and your family?
You know what? I mean, I'm really lucky. I have a great wife, and we hike a lot, and we do a lot of outdoor things. I love to fly fish, and so I spend a lot of time fly fishing, trying to outsmart, a trout with the brain the size of a pea, and more often than not lose. So it's very humbling. The other thing too is that trout don't live in ugly places. So when you're outside and you see God's majesty, it's very humbling, and it feels good. It's a big recharge.
Thinking back over your years, what is your most memorable patient or experience?
My most memorable patient experience. I think when I was a fellow at Alexandria Hospital Interventional Radiology, I took care of a woman who had pancreatic cancer, and she had a blockage in her common bile duct, and she knew she was dying, and basically we tried to keep her, in as little pain as possible with different types of blocks and different stents to keep her pancreatic duct open. And before she died, she gave me this wooden duck decoy with a sweet note about, it was not just the procedures that kept her living. It was, the care that we gave her and the efforts that we made to alleviate her pain. And I still have it, in my office with the note, and that was tremendously meaningful.
What do you think the future of radiology is?
Well, I can assure you radiology is not going away, and that computers are not going to do everything that we do. But I think there's no question artificial intelligence is going to be a huge piece of what we do in the future. Already our mammograms get case scores by artificial intelligence. And so even before the radiologist starts looking at the case, we have artificial intelligence telling us what the computer thinks the chances of cancer in that patient is. So we're really starting to use it. For our diagnostic impressions when we dictate our report, all our dictations are basically voice recognition. Every word that we say now goes into a database that's queryable, so we can actually get tremendous amount of data. Different standards can pop up automatically. And our impressions are double checked with the body of the report by artificial intelligence. So, at SDMI, we're really, on the forefront of what artificial intelligence is going to be. But there'll be no question that artificial intelligence will be very much involved in looking at a variety of our studies and double checking us and giving us recommendations, for further imaging or making sure that our observations fall within some criteria that makes some sense.
When you first started, did you ever imagine that SDMI would become what it has become today?
No, I didn't really have, I kind of, I think I probably like my dad. I just got up really early and I went to work, and then when I was done, hopefully I go home and have a quick bite to eat and collapse and then repeat. And then if you do that for 35 years, you know what? The landscape changes. When we moved to town, Summerlin didn't exist. When we moved to town, Anthem didn't exist. When we moved to town, it was 200,000 people, and now it's almost 2.5 million. So the world's changed, and we've just tried to basically grow with the city, provide our services in areas that we felt that that imaging was lacking, and also try to really propagate our brand where we're not an extension of a big organization. We're a locally grown organization with local leadership and local talent, and we're community based, and we want to contribute and be part of our community. So
projections show that Las Vegas is on track to eventually hit a population of 3 million or more. What do you think that means for the future of SDMI?
We're looking at and evaluating new opportunities, if not daily, weekly or monthly. We do have challenges. We can open up offices, but if we can't get radiologists and staff, it makes it very difficult. But we're certainly looking at doing more offices. The north part of town is still growing very rapidly. We feel like there's some infill pieces that we could probably grow better. But I mean, I'm not the same. I'm a little older than I was when I started this, so we'll see. But I'm still pretty energetic and still very optimistic about the future.
What has SDMI taught you?
Probably that anything that looks simple is not. You know what? Everything that we do here, you think might be easy, and it's not. There's nothing that we do is easy. I mean, keeping our facilities clean is not easy. You know, keeping our equipment up to date is not easy. Keeping our employees happy is not easy. Keeping our patients informed and educated and safe is not easy. Everything that we do that people think is easy, it's not easy. And so, I mean, there's no one job at SDMI that's more important or less important or easier than another. I mean, keeping our offices safe is a whole important task, and whether it's an EVS person, you know, making sure that the temperature of our washing machines are correctly, or you know, our duct detectors are not dirty so we don't get false alarms, or a network goes down, or our parking lot has a crack in it. I mean, there's just a million things going on every day, and you know what? We see a lot of patients every day, and we have a lot of responsibility to do things right every day, and it's an endless amount of work, and nothing's easy.
What advice do you have for patients?
I think, you know, I think that you just, I mean, patients more than ever need to be an advocate for their own health care. I think you need to ask questions. You know, when you're having an exam, understand what the implications are, why you're having it. Also, I mean, you know, ultimately, insurance is a patient's responsibility. It's not a facility's responsibility. So you really need to understand what your insurance covers. You know, I get a lot of people calling me and saying, you know, who's the best doctor to do this? And my answer often is, well, you know, there are a lot of good doctors. Who's on your insurance? You know, so I mean, you know, unfortunately, medicine's very, very expensive, and you know, for most, if not all people, you know, if you don't have insurance, you know, the you know, medicine's really basically unaffordable. So you need to understand your insurance. You need to be an advocate for yourself. And the other thing ultimately is you know, your health care is really dependent upon, you know, the choices you make. And so, you know, I can tell you, you know, good health care really starts with, you know, good child rearing, you know, whether it's eating the right things or having, you know, good or bad habits, or, you know, exercise. But, you know, most of the diseases that we deal with are chronic diseases. And so good choices, you know, really affect patients, you know, at a very early age.
So I like to end all of my conversations with one question, and that is, what would your younger self be most proud of you for, or most surprised by?
Most proud of me for? I you know what, I like to think that I'm very honest and straightforward, and you know, I make a big effort not to lie or to make things up, and to be honest and transparent. And I think as a leader, you know, if even when you tell people bad news, if you're honest about it and you don't make things up, I think, you know, they're more willing to believe you. I go by the premise of you know, the golden rule, and that there's one truth, and that hopefully I live my life that way, and I'll be remembered that way.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you.